Hello friends, today I'm going to be talking about where is the best place to buy a vacation rental. The vacation rental industry has exploded over the last 5 to 10 years. When people hear that, they assume that all the areas are saturated. But I'm here to tell you that there's huge opportunities out there. And by the end of this video, I'm going to share with you where the best places are to buy a vacation rental and exactly where I'm looking myself right now. As we go through this topic, I'm going to dive into the specifics surrounding vacation rentals. What it is, why are they so important, why are they so popular right now, how the numbers ultimately play out when it comes to vacation rentals, and why it's growing so fast. Finally, I want to give you some real world examples of how I found the vacation rentals that I own and where I'm looking right now and where you should look to invest for vacation rentals. If you're ready, let's go. So what is a vacation rental and how is it different from, say, maybe a short-term rental or even a long-term rental? Well, first off, essentially a vacation rental is a short-term rental, right? When we say short-term rental or vacation rental, we're talking about a short period of time, anywhere from a day or a night up to 30 days typically is what we look at. It is a short-term stay, whereas a long-term rental, you're looking at probably 12 months or longer. Or a mid-term rental that's anywhere from 30 days, maybe up to 90 to 120 days. So short-term rental is that segment of market where people are nightly renting a place to stay either on vacation or for a short period of time. And vacation rentals are just that. They're that segment of short-term rentals where people are typically traveling and want to experience something, so they're staying at a vacation rental, usually in a place that they're traveling to as a vacation. But why is it such a big deal? And why has it grown so much over the last decade? Well, I think it's best understood if you realize what type of economy that we're living in. There was a book written many years ago called The Experience Economy. And essentially, these authors said, listen, we are progressing in an economy every so often, right? We first started out as a commodities economy, as a goods economy. We progressed to a service economy. And currently, we're living in an experience economy. We as individuals want an experience. It's the reason that you go into Build-A-Bear with your son or daughter and you go make a teddy bear for 75 bucks versus going and buying one for 20 bucks, right? You want the experience of building it yourself. It's no different than anything else. When you travel, when you go on vacation with your family, rather than going to a hotel, which can be cool, some people now might see it as boring, you can actually rent a home or a tree house or anything else where you're vacationing and have an experience like the local in a beautiful part of the country or any part of the world that gives you that experience that otherwise you won't have at a hotel. So because of this experience economy, we are seeing an explosion of short-term rentals, especially vacation rentals, that provide the type of experience that people aren't going to get anywhere other than staying at these. That's why Airbnb is so big, Vrbo's so big, and these other places that offer the experience for individuals when they travel on vacation. Now let's talk about how to find vacation rentals. And I'll tell you exactly what I did. So probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I got really excited about the vacation rental market. Interest rates were low, and I just started looking at some of the numbers that these vacation rentals were doing, right? And thinking, oh my goodness, if I could participate in this market as well as some of the other real estate investing I'm doing, this can be a great thing. So I started scouring the internet. I started looking all over the United States on the internet, where are the best places to purchase a vacation rental? And I started comparing website to website and started seeing which areas were rising to the top, which ones were in the top 5 in this publication, which ones were in the top 5 of this publication. And as I started comparing those areas, I really started to see which areas looked like they may be a good fit for me and my partners to invest in. And then once I found these areas, there's an amazing tool out there called AirDNA. It helps give you the analytics and the data behind short-term rentals or vacation rentals. It gives you how much average nightly stay is, what the occupancy rate is, and also monthly gross revenue on average in certain areas. And there's a free service and there's paid service, but I'm able to go in and I started using AirDNA to get an idea of what the numbers look like for these areas that I was really interested in. And that helped me at that time formulate specific areas that I wanted to focus on, and I had a budget in mind to do that. But that wasn't just it. I had to also analyze 5 additional areas to really help me make that decision. The first one was regulations. If you're going to buy a vacation rental or short-term rental, you got to make sure that the regulations aren't against you, right? Now, what do I mean by this? For example, I own a vacation rental in Island Park, Idaho. It's about a 20-minute drive to Yellowstone National Park. And in that area, like a lot of areas, you have people that love short-term rentals and people that don't want short-term rentals, right? They want their cabin there and they don't want anybody else to come and stay and visit, even though most of the economy is driven by tourism there. For example, there was a big upheaval not too long, about a year ago, about people saying, okay, we've got to regulate this because it is getting a little bit out of control. And there is some regulation that has to be done to a certain level. So what they decided to do was, listen, we've got all these vacation rentals and we have cabins that are maybe a 2-bedroom, 2-bath cabin that are housing 15 to 20 people for nightly stays in these cabins. And what do you think was happening? When you have 15 to 20 people there and they're using the bathrooms and all the facilities, all of a sudden there became an issue with the septic and sewers in that area of Island Park that was really challenging. So what the county decided to do, or started to look to do, was regulate how many people could stay at a short-term rental based on the bedroom count. So if there was a bedroom, they could allocate 3 individuals per bedroom. So if it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, the most amount of people that could stay at that were 6. Now this caused a lot of problems because there's individuals who are already renting them out to 15 to 20 people, and they'd purchased this cabin based off of the revenue that would be done if there was 15, 20 people staying there, not 5 or 6. And so currently it's on hold. Nothing's gone past that at this point, but you've got to understand how regulations play an important part when looking at a vacation rental. The second thing is just affordability, right? Can you afford in the area that you're looking, right? If you're going and looking in some really ritzy area, but your budget's $500,000 and the average home's $1 million, that's probably a good indicator to leave that market, right? So affordability. The third thing is active listings. Are there enough listings in there? Can you go in there? Can you find properties? Active listings is a good indication if there's properties that you could even go in and make offers on. The fourth thing is optimal size. You've really got to take a look at bed count, right? 3 to 4 bedrooms really seem to be a good model for the short-term rentals. Now, obviously, if you're in an area like we are in Island Park, Idaho, a lot of times you get family reunions or multiple families going up there. So we have a little bit bigger 6, 7 bedroom cabin up there that can house a lot more people. And the last thing is revenue target, right? If you can afford this much money, say $500,000, you want your revenue to be able to cover all of your expenses. So those are things that you need to look at when determining where to purchase a short-term rental. Now, I know that can sound overwhelming, but if you follow these steps, you'll be able to narrow it down to a handful of markets. And that's exactly what I did when I got started in short-term rentals. So ultimately, we got to look at the numbers. We got to look at the revenue. First question I ask myself after I've gone through all these steps is, does this property, can it have the numbers to support me purchasing it? And obviously right behind that is, does it have the demand? Are people vacationing there? Are they traveling there? That might even be above it, right? You got to make sure that it's an area that's desirable, that people are going to continue to vacation to, even if challenging things start happening in the economy, right? Island Park, Idaho, next to Yellowstone, people are always going to visit Yellowstone. Over the last 25 years, they've had 3.5 million people each year visit it. The Smoky Mountains, there are 12.5 million people that visit the Smoky Mountains every single year, and it's been that way for a long time. If the demand's there, that's the first indicator. Now let's talk numbers. Let's talk revenue. Here is my basic rule of thumb. You need at least annual revenue to be at least 10% of the purchase price, right? So if you're buying a property for $500,000, that property has to do at least $50,000 in annual revenue. If you really want a good deal, I say 15%. So if you're purchasing a $500,000 property and that does $75,000 in annual revenue, you are in a great situation, right? That's a good deal. Now, if it can do 20% of the purchase price in annual revenue, that's a don't pass up deal. So if you find a piece of property for $500,000 and that's doing $100,000 in annual revenue, I would not pass that deal up. That is a great deal. Now, obviously interest rates play a role in that right now, but still those are hard to come by and hard to find. So to give you an example, I bought a vacation rental in Orlando, Florida, and bought it many years ago. And when I bought it, it was for $579,000. The first full 12 months, that property did $145,000 in revenue, right? So it was almost a 30, 32, 33% annual return on that. So it was a great deal. And then I had one that I purchased in Blue Ridge, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. And we purchased that for $500,000. And year one, it did $75,000. So that was a 15% return on investment. So I've seen some that have been really high. I've also seen some that haven't been great, but they've been above 10% because that has to be the baseline. Now, if you were going to ask me, where should I be looking right now to purchase a vacation rental? I think a lot of it depends on areas you're familiar with. But if you go through these steps that I just explained in this video to find one, you can break down those areas, and it really doesn't matter where you live, right? Even though I live in Idaho, I've purchased homes in Georgia, Orlando, Oklahoma, so in a lot of different areas that I don't even live, but I've been able to travel there and go visit. So as of right now, a couple areas that I think are really hot when it comes to vacation rentals, I like Florida altogether, right? Florida is a great market, and there's a lot of different cities in Florida that work for this model. Whether it's Orlando, Tampa, those are two cities I really like, but I've even heard great things about Jacksonville. I've heard great things about Miami. So you going and doing the research is going to be key. But the two areas that I'm looking at right now One is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, specifically Murrells Inlet, right? It's a little bit south of Myrtle Beach, but this is an area that has traditionally always had visitors and people traveling to the beach with their families, right? So it's a great area, and doing that research to find out, many times almost everything I've looked at there is at least 10% of annual revenue of the purchase price. Another area I really like, and this is a lesser known one, but it's Lutsen, Minnesota, right? It's up in the northern part of Minnesota that a lot of people travel to. It's right on the lake, right by a ski area, but I met an individual about a year ago who has some vacation rentals up there, and I was blown away by what he was able to do revenue-wise with purchase price. So those are a couple nuggets that I found that I'm looking at. I'd be interested to see where you're looking for vacation rentals. And as always, I've actually got a free gift for you specific about short-term rentals, vacation rentals. It's on aaron'sfreetraining.com. It's a short-term or vacation rental calculator where you actually put the numbers in. So I know I talked about a lot of this in the video, but if you plug the numbers into this calculator, the expenses, the purchase price, it'll spit out for you whether it's a good deal or not and give you what the annual revenue return is as compared to a purchase price. So click on the link below, aaron'sfreetraining.com. Once again, thanks for visiting. Have an awesome day.